Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Irfan and I'll be your host for today's episode of the Mindful Conversation podcast. So for your information, the Mindful Conversation podcast is a series of podcasts that we talk about mental health that is produced by the Gariban Group. So with me here today, I have Marsya, my colleague from Gariban Group, and also a very special guest from the Malaysian Mental Health Association, Miss Jen.
Woo!
So how are you guys?
Okay.
Awesome.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
I feel good. I feel okay this
Okay.
morning. I'm okay.
Miss Jen, you feeling awesome?
Awesome. We have to feel awesome, right? We have to be at the top of our game, especially when we are supporting other people,
Yeah,
right? Fake it till we make it.
I see. So would you say that that's your mantra every day?
Yes, definitely. We have to wake up feeling awesome because then
Okay.
you give us that energy, right?
Yeah, okay, so that's your first advice. Okay, first piece of advice today is to feel awesome. Have your own mantra to make you feel, more energetic. In Malay, you say very semangat lah. In the morning. I think that's very crucial, and that will determine the whole
flow
day,
of
the
the
whole
day,
flow of the
the
day.
whole
If
day
not,
of
then you will just go
I
away.
feel great.
Me too. Okay. So just to recap for our new viewers and also for Miss Jen, in the last episode of the Mindful Conversation podcast, we touched on undergraduate students' experience on mental health. So we had Emma and Takif. They both are undergraduate students who are living abroad, studying abroad, and they shared about what they faced in their mental health journey. How they open up to their friends, how important it is to identify your support system, and also it's important to being self-aware of the spiral that you go through because that can affect your mental health. So if you're interested to watch that episode, you can go to our channel and see. But for today, I'd like to bring the topic closer to home. Hence why today we're discussing about youth mental health in Malaysia. So just for everyone's information, yes. Just for everyone's information, the Gariban Group this year, we mainly focuses on student mental health. Hence, our programs have been very curated, I would say, for university students and also for secondary school students. The reason being is because in 2021, we collaborated with Malaysian Mental Health Association on a series of initiatives. In particular, that I want to bring up is the initiative that we supported 200 sessions of counseling and psychotherapy. And with that, we did not pass up the opportunity to take up some data. And I'd like to share with everyone here today on what we have found on that initiative. So let me read it out to you. The first statistic that we received was that the oldest caller was a 57-year-old. Yeah. And the youngest callers were two 16 years old person, youth. Yeah. So that's very young. Yeah, they're still in school, and then they reached out to MMHA for help. And the average, or I would say the median age of our callers were 24 years old. So 24 is, you're still in university, or rather maybe some of them have just finished university. Hence, it's to geared towards more the youth. That's why Gariban Group decided, when we plan for 2022, let's focus on youth mental health. Yeah. So maybe we could share a little bit on, the programs that we have done in Gariban Group for youth mental health. We've done one for university students and one for secondary school students. Marsha, do you want to, as head of programs and advocacy, would you want to explain a little bit more on what we did this year?
Yeah. Thank you, Irfan. Thank you, Ms. Jen, for being here today. Thank you for having me here today. I think to share about our programs, like you mentioned just now, last year we worked with MMHA closely, right? For strengthening community support. As non-mental professionals, what can we do? So that's what we aim to replicate in our programs for this year as well for students. So those community support, how do we then expand it, right? So for our programs, we aim to mobilize these community champions that is derived from our programs. So for our programs, it is really a two-pronged approach for both programs. So it is number one, it is raising awareness on mental health and number two, equipping people and individuals with skills to provide interim support. Yeah. So for the two programs that we have for GRG for students is number one is called the GRID project. So the GRID project is a student mental literacy program, a one and a half day student mental literacy program for undergraduate students across all what's it called?
Age group?
Not age group.
Faculties?
Faculties, yes,
Faculties,
across
okay.
all faculties. I was about to say sectors, but it's not sectors in the university. But yeah, it is across all faculties. You know, it doesn't only necessarily mean students from the psychology faculty
Yeah.
should know how to support people.
Yeah, I think that's important. You know, you
Yeah.
spread the knowledge around
Yes,
instead of
yes.
you just focus on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So having someone at least from each faculty to know what to do next, the next steps to do is very, very important in case a crisis happens.
Definitely.
In
Like
case.
like we were there during the first GRID project.
Yeah.
and
Yes.
It was so refreshing to
Yes.
see the youth coming
Yes.
out, the students,
Yeah.
being so relaxed about it,
Yes.
just participating
And
in the GRID
open.
project. Yes.
They're very accepting to it. Yeah. And then the second program that we have is called TM Future Skills Mental Health Literacy. Both of our student mental health programs right now is currently being supported by Yayasan Telekom Malaysia. Yeah. So far we have conducted our GRID project in 5 universities.
Yeah.
So
Across
we have
the country?
Across the country.
Yeah.
We have done one in Terengganu in the
Yeah.
East Coast State.
So do you see a difference in terms of
Definitely.
in KL?
Definitely. I feel like the issues discussed between the rural areas, which is the East Coast states, and in the city in Kuala Lumpur, there is definitely a difference in the issues being vocalized by the students. So, for
Right.
example, in the city areas like KL, we talk more on help-seeking behavior.
Okay.
How to go up for help, how to
Yeah.
even seek help, where do I go? But for the rural area, I won't say rural, but for the East Coast state, where stigma and prejudice remain very high still, they talk more, or they discuss more on topics such as stigma and awareness, right? So, for example, not shy, but I guess reluctancy to speak about mental health.
I think it's largely due to the perception,
Yes.
how
Yeah.
you perceive mental health,
Yeah.
that's your understanding.
Yeah.
Yes, the understanding. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
That's the local culture as well,
Yes, yes.
because Malaysia is a very, very diverse country,
Correct.
and we're very big. Yeah, so the students in the urban areas compared to students from the East Coast compared to students from Sabah Sarawak, for example, the level of mental health awareness, stigma, literacy, all differs
Perception, yes.
according to areas.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And the perception really plays a role in this, but that's what we aim to do for the GRID project. The GRID project, what we aim to get out of the GRID project is to create this network of students across Malaysia,
Okay.
right? So, for example, this network, if a student, for example, in Kedah is experiencing a problem, maybe a student somewhere in Johor or Sarawak can speak to them, they can discuss things. And how do we then go about this problem, for example? So we are aiming to create this network of students
Yeah.
across Malaysia. At GRG, we believe that people of the community, members of the community, non-mental health professionals can also become a resource to mental health care. And that's what we aim to do through this program, to these student programs.
Yeah, sorry, just to chip in. I think it's also to note that how much we believe in youth power as well,
Yes.
because we know the youth are very energetic, they're very creative, and
Yes.
they have the drive
Yes.
to
The energy.
advocate for mental health. So
Yes.
when we talk about connecting them through a network, in a sense, we are also basically walking the talk
Yes.
when we say mental health should not be in silos. You need to
Yes.
collaborate. You need to work together to address this main issue.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
And for the schools, for the mental health literacy program in schools, that's basic. The aim is just to really equip children or equip students, high school students, with enough knowledge on mental health to really know. I mean, ideally, what we want everyone to know, not only children, not only school students, is what is mental health exactly. What do we look out for? How do we manage it? And how to go about it? Where is the resource for help, right? So in schools, we do that. we allow students to we expose students to the different types of support available, the stigma, what are the stigma associated to mental health. For example, mental health is purely invisible. You can't see it in, it doesn't show up physically, for example. So things like that,
I think one area that we have to focus on mental health literacy is that it covers identifying certain mental health conditions or mental health problems. And also we need to draw attention to people that it covers areas on where to seek help.
Yeah.
Did you know, I think many conversations that we have had among students are that there is the counselor that's available in the school or in the university, but there's often this question of where else can I seek help? And in line with how we were brought up, we only think of the medical professional.
Yeah.
Right, and this is where we need to also draw attention that there are other mental health professionals who can provide help. So in which mental health literacy also covers that part.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think in terms of these programs, it goes way more than just being able to tell whether this person is having depression. What else can we do as somebody, as a peer?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, going back to our topic, so thank you, Marsha, for explaining about our programs. So, going back to our topic about youth mental health, I'd like to ask Ms. Jen's opinion on, because we mentioned data earlier on. So, what are the differences, or how can you compare, the data on youth mental health, maybe from the last, I think it's 2019, 2017, and like to now, like, are there any differences, or is there you have an opinion on youth mental health in Malaysia?
I think the latest published data was in 2017, National Health and Mobility Survey. 1 in 5 of our youth are depressed.
Oh, okay.
And this and further on to that set of statistics, right? Those set of numbers, 17.7% of girls compared to 18.9% of boys.
So higher.
Yes,
and the boys.
In males, and this is contrary to popular belief because we've always thought that more females were affected by depression. Right, but again, here goes back to our information on feelings of depressed and depression of as an illness. Right, while more males reported to be feeling depressed, less as compared to females. Right, and this brings us to the other set of other conversation that we're going to have this morning about anxiousness, feeling anxious, right? 2 in 5 of our youth report feeling anxious. And in this set of numbers, more females, 42.3%, compared to males, 37.1%, reported feeling anxious, right? So you see, we have always thought that depression and anxiety is like, something that goes hand in hand. When you have depression, the person most likely has anxiety. Because high anxiety over a long period of time may cause depression. Right? But the numbers in terms of the differences in gender tells us differently in the National Health and Mobility Survey 2017.
Right.
In which I would say that these numbers were probably due to the fact that there are more conversations in men's health, particularly mental health. We are seeing this paradigm shift in terms of open conversations among males, and this is moving with the trend in our young people nowadays. Right?
So would you say, because you said the latest published data was 2017, and I don't think we have any current data, like especially post-COVID. So would you say that there might be an increase there because one, because of the pandemic. Second is because mental health has been talked about, so now it's been normalized. So now more people are coming out to report such symptoms that they face.
I don't. There is definitely no national statistics as of 2017 with regards to youth mental health, but there are smaller studies which have been done, particularly in topics of mental health post-COVID. Yes, in terms of MMHA and the people we serve, I would say there is a balance between male and female callers. Males, I would say that there is a difference in terms of how male reaches out for help. Males, first of all, they may directly call. Second, they may get their partners, somebody they love to call, because sometimes how we process mental health is very different in terms of gender.
Okay.
Right? Females, we dwell on it, we talk about it, and then openly, we're more open with our emotions.
Yeah.
But in terms of males, what we're seeing is that it's not that they don't want, in some cases I would say that it's not that they don't want to have that conversation, but they cannot find accurate vocabulary.
Yeah, identifying
Yeah,
what they're
correct,
feeling. Right?
correct. And how many males would come out to you and say, "Hey, I feel sad today."
None of my friends
Right,
are. None of my
right.
friends.
I would say that males tend to exhibit like anger, frustration over saying, "Hey, you know what? I feel sad today."
Yeah.
Because feeling sad is very feminine.
Maybe perceived as weak
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. It's a vulnerable situation.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Right?
okay.
So I think in terms of at least in terms of what we see in the Malaysian Mental Health Association, the psychological community psychological support that we offer, we are treading on like a balance between males and females. But then again, in terms of youth and adults, it's also very different now. Youth, they're more in touch with their feelings, which is actually good, and this is where we see the future of mental health, right? Because youth essentially is our future,
Yeah.
right? But in terms of working adults, more of the senior age groups, right? They are less inclined to be open. They will say, I would say that out of the conversation, out of the phone calls that I receive, they say that it started off with heaviness on the head. It will nothing straightforward like the youth,
I
like the young
see.
people.
So are they? Is it like they are attributing it to physiological symptoms instead?
Correct, somatic symptoms like
Okay.
I started with I had this ache. Oh, I had this. And this brings me to this experience I had, and this older person. I think this lady was in her 40s.
Okay.
Again, a woman never reveals her age.
Okay,
right?
okay.
And
40s.
in her 40s, and she said, you know what? I started this my mental health condition, my depression. She said my depression actually started from my persistent neck ache.
Okay.
But when I further on that conversation I had with her, I said, what? I mean, how long have you had this neck ache? How long have you? And this actually opened up the conversation that it was that feeling depressed, and in which it progressed on to having depression as a mental illness, which caused her to have that persistent neck ache because she was constantly so stressed and so tensed up.
Yeah.
And in which she said, during the conversation, I never knew. She said she never knew that could happen. Right? But in terms of the youth, one thing that I would like to talk about would be how they cope.
Okay.
Adults, because of our experience, because of our life experiences, we cope better. But in youth, right, because of their limited, life experience,
Yep.
the way they cope with difficult situations, the way they handle emotions, it's I would say it's different, but I would be very neutral about it, because but that also makes them more inclined to have addictive behavior.
That negative coping
Yes,
mechanism.
correct. Negative coping mechanism. This is where as adults we have to reconsider how we handle mental health.
Respond to it?
Yeah, how we respond to youth's mental health. Because so many conversations, so many phone calls have reached the Malaysian Mental Health Association saying that my parents are not open to it because it's a reflection on their flaws as parents.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I think this is where in terms of how I would say it's a dance. It's a two-way mechanism between the adults and the youth in terms of how we view mental health.
Okay, well, that was pretty insightful as well, because you've shared your experiences and also the feedbacks that you got from meeting with these people or even through calls, right? So I'd like to go back to Marsha on speaking about feedbacks, right? When we did our programs, we received a lot of feedbacks from the students themselves. So maybe you can share a little bit what we have learned through their feedbacks. What were their response like to our programs?
So for the feedback that they have given for that is they have never felt happier or they have never felt more comfortable talking to someone that they don't even know, because these participants, they don't know each other.
Okay.
Other feedbacks, it includes for the advocacy part. So of course, the advocacy session, we train students to become advocates.
Yeah.
So for the advocacy campaigns, the student was mentioning how it is really nice to know that us as non-professionals, as non-mental professionals, can also play a part in mental health care. And I think that is a powerful message to show everyone. We don't have to be, of course, we do need the help of professionals, mental professionals, right?
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily have to be one to
To
contribute.
contribute, yeah, that's right. What about feedbacks on the program in schools?
In schools. Right, that's very interesting. One of the students were mentioning about, she knows that she has a mental problem. She knows that she's not okay. But she doesn't care about it. She doesn't want to address it. But through this program, after she knows the importance of, knowing herself and knowing how to manage it and how it affects her in the long run, post-school, post-university, then she realized that, okay, I should care about it. I should take consideration of my mental health. I should address it. So she said, one of the feedback that the students said was, this program made me want to care about my mental health more. And it's only like 2 hours long. This program is only 2 hours long.
Yeah, that's quite. I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back, say impressive, but it's quite nice to see like the program has an immediate impact after 2 hours. So and then we were able to change the minds of these attendees or these participants to just to care more about their own mental health.
For the student, it was kind of heartwarming to know that, but it was also in a way bittersweet because how many other students feel the same as her, but they're not speaking up about it. She said, in her own words, she said, it makes me want to fix my mental health.
So after hearing, these feedbacks from the students on our programs, and you see like you understand like what we're trying to achieve through these programs, are there anything, that we or other organizations or people or individuals who like to contribute to youth mental health? What are the ways that you could do something for youth mental health in Malaysia?
I think we should start walking the talk. We shouldn't be saying, oh, you should do this, you should do that. But take ownership into what I can do, what we can do as a community. We need to remember that universities, schools, whichever community that you are in, that is a community. Right? It's about taking ownership about on your own mental health. And I think this is where GRG has taken a very good initiative in implementing this kind of programs in schools. Although we don't need to go nationwide to shout about it. Right? We can go about 1 school, 5 schools. But also to bear in mind that in terms of young people, especially minors, there is this element on legal implications of getting help, right? So what you have seen in the Malaysian Mental Health Association, that we do what we can, right? We know that minors, we cannot give therapy to minors without consent from their guardian. We give them support, that interim support, right? And this is very, very critical, especially in somebody who is suicidal, right? You can never imagine what kind of thoughts go through their mind. I think in terms of championing stigma, there was a recent research that was done. A huge percentage of that stigma is attributed by self-stigma, right? It's already so difficult for him or her to come out. Let's make the journey easier.
Okay, so with that, I think we have to conclude today's episode of the podcast. But just before we go, maybe are there any last words or message that you want to say to our audience or to the youth out there who's watching? So maybe Marsya, do you have anything?
Well, I just want to say to youth out there is there is so many support out there, like support available out there. But identifying your own support system is also crucial for you too. But know that you're never alone when in this journey.
Yeah. What about you, Ms. Jen?
I think in terms of the phrase mental health, it begins with 2 alphabets, which is M and E.
Okay.
But we have to start taking ownership, and mental health begins with me.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Okay. So thank you, Irfan. Thank you,
Right.
Marsha.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for our guest here, Ms. Jen, also Ms. Marsha. And thank you for you guys for staying on and willing to listen for us talking about mental health. So if you like this episode of the Mindful Conversations, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also to share this podcast, this episode with your friends and family. You can also follow the Green Ribbon Group at Green Ribbon Group MY on Instagram, as well as MMHA 1968 on Instagram to know more about mental health and the services that they provide. So until next time, please take care and don't forget to keep the conversation going. Bye.